After sealing the letter inside the trunk, I sat for a long time in silence. The lamp flickered, the night air pressed close, but within me, something steadier had been born. I had spoken my truth. My words lived now, even if unspoken aloud. I wrapped my shawl tighter around me and looked at the trunk one last time. To others, it might look like wood, steel, and cloth, but to me, it was more than a container. It was a shrine of sacrifice, a shrine of love, a shrine of a mother's dignity, sealed yet eternal. The next morning, I stood at the doorway of my small home and watched the world go by. Men in pressed shirts hurried to their offices, women walked with baskets, children ran with bags on their backs, and for a moment, I wondered how many mothers like me were hidden away, how many sat in silence, erased from their children's pride. I whispered to myself, we are not stains, we are not shame, we are the soil they stand on, and soil may be stepped upon, but without it, no tree can grow. I looked at my sari, its faded edges, its worn threads. I touched my slippers, cracked, but strong. To the world, these were signs of poverty. To me, they were medals earned through years of walking, working, sacrificing. I lifted my head higher. Let them laugh, let them mock. Their polished shoes may shine today, but one day they will dull. Their offices may tower today, but one day they will fall. But a mother's love that does not fade, that does not crack, that does not end. If you believe no mother should ever be hidden for the sake of image, please like, share, and comment respect. Let's honor every sacrifice that carried us here. As the sun rose, light touched my home. I closed my eyes and whispered one final prayer. God, let him remember. Let him one day see that his greatest success was not in glass buildings or shining suits, but in the hands that fed him, the prayers that carried him, the love that built him. I turned back inside, my steps slow but steady. The trunk sat in its corner, waiting, not just for him, but for time itself to reveal the truth. Because truth does not stay buried forever. Because roots always push through the earth. Because one day, even the proudest branches bend toward the soil that gave them life. They can hide me from their colleagues. They can erase me from their image. They can call me shame, but they cannot erase me from their blood. And when pride fades and hunger returns not for food, but for love, he will remember the taste of my hands. And he will know his mother was never his ruin. She was always his foundation. That night, as I stared at the closed trunk, I realized something. Food alone was not enough. If one day he opened it, he might still not understand. He might see only stale bread, hardened butter, forgotten meals, but if he found my words alongside it, then perhaps, just perhaps, he would hear my heart. I pulled out paper and pen, lit the lamp, and began to write. My son, I do not know when you will open this trunk, maybe years from now, maybe when your own hair has turned gray, but when you do, you will find this tiffin, and you must know what it means. This food is not just food, it is the story of your childhood, the proof of my love, the record of my sacrifice. These parathas once kept you alive, once gave you strength, once filled your belly when nothing else could. And now they sit here, untouched, not because they lost their taste, but because you lost your memory. You told me I would ruin your image. But remember, this: without me, there would be no image to protect. Without me, there would be no office, no colleagues, no polished shoes. I gave you hunger so you could have fullness. I gave you sleepless nights so you could have dreams. I gave you my youth so you could have a future. If you are ashamed of me, then you are ashamed of yourself, for I am your beginning. Asterisk, asterisk, my tears blurred the ink, but I kept writing. Asterisk, asterisk, son. Success without gratitude is failure. Money without respect is poverty. An office without a mother's blessing is emptier than any hut. You may hide me from your colleagues, but you cannot erase me from your blood. And one day, when life humbles you, you will open this trunk, you will read these words, and you will remember the taste of home. Asterisk, asterisk, I folded the paper carefully, slipping it into an envelope. On it, I wrote only 3 words. For my son. I placed it inside the trunk, resting it on top of the tiffin. My hands lingered there, trembling, but firm. If you believe no mother should ever have to remind her child of sacrifice, please comment respect below. Let's honor the truth of every forgotten parent. I sat back in my chair, exhausted but lighter. The letter was not anger, it was truth. It was not accusation, it was memory, and in that moment, I knew I had done all I could. If he never read it, my heart would still rest knowing I had spoken. If he did read it, perhaps he would finally see me not as shame, but as soil. I thought silence had stolen my voice, but ink gave it back. And even if he would not listen today, One day my words would speak louder than his pride. The next morning, the tiffin still sat on the table, covered by cloth. The butter had hardened, the parathas stiffened, but to me, it looked like a wound, refusing to heal. I lifted it carefully, my hands trembling. My son had once devoured every crumb of my cooking. Yet now the same food felt like a curse to him because it came from hands he called shame. I could not throw it away. To discard it would be to discard my love. Instead, I carried it to the wooden trunk in my room. That trunk had been my vault for memories. My daughter's baby clothes, my son's first drawings, a few old letters, the bangles I had not sold. It was the chest that held the story of my life. I opened it slowly, the hinges groaning, and placed the tiffin inside. "This is not just food," I whispered. "This is love. This is history. And one day, when your pride is hungry, you will crave this taste. You will open this tiffin and remember me." I tied a red cloth around it, marking it as sacred. To others, it was only steel and food. To me it was a promise that love, even rejected, never disappears. That night, I sat before the trunk, watching the smoke of incense curl upward. I prayed softly. Let him remember. One day, let him taste and know that no banquet, no polished plate, no hotel dish can ever replace a mother's hand. If you believe no mother's love should ever be hidden away, please share this story. Let's remind the world that a mother's food is a treasure, not a shame. My mind wandered back to when he was little. Once, he had fallen sick and refused all food. Doctors shook their heads, saying, "He must eat, or he will weaken." I had made parathas that night, soft and hot, feeding him piece by piece. His strength returned with every bite. His life had been saved by my food, by my hands. And now those same hands, the same food, were kept out of his world. I closed the trunk, sealing the tiffin within. As the latch clicked shut, it felt like I had locked away, not just food, but a part of myself. But I did not weep. Instead, I sat straighter. They could call me shame. They could erase me from polished offices and glass buildings. But my food, my love, my prayers, they would outlive their laughter. I thought his office would taste of victory. Instead, it tasted of rejection, sealed in a trunk, waiting for remembrance. The tiffin sat on the table, untouched, its steel surface still warm from the parathas inside, but to me, it felt colder than the silence that filled the room. I stared at it for hours, unable to move. My mind wandered back to years gone by, when that same food was his greatest joy. I remembered when he was small, coming home from school, his bag bouncing against his back. He would burst through the door, eyes shining, and shout, "Ma, did you make parathas today?" I always did. Even when the flour was low, even when the oil was scarce, I found a way. I rolled them thin, stretched them wide, made them with love. He would sit cross-legged on the floor, tearing them with small, eager hands, smearing butter across his lips. "Ma," he once said, grinning with a mouthful, "no one in the world can cook like you." I remembered the nights when exams kept him awake. I would quietly slip into the kitchen and make parathas, bringing them to his desk. He would look up from his books, his eyes tired, his smile wide. "Ma, you always know when I'm hungry." And when he grew older, leaving for college, I packed them in foil, slipping them into his bag. "For later," I whispered. He would nod, embarrassed before his friends, but I knew he ate them in silence, thinking of home. And now, that same food sat untouched, not because it lacked flavor, but because it carried my face, my sari, my slippers, things he wished to hide. I rose slowly, opened the tiffin, and lifted one paratha. It was still soft, the butter melting along its edges. I tore a piece and placed it in my mouth. The taste was familiar, comforting, but bitter tears mixed with it. "This is not just food," I whispered. "This is my love. And if my love embarrasses you, then perhaps you have forgotten what love tastes like. If you believe no mother's cooking should ever be rejected in shame, please like and share this story. Let's honor every mother's kitchen." I placed the tiffin back on the table. My appetite had gone. The parathas cooled, their scent filling the air, reminding me of the meals we once shared together, meals filled with laughter, stories, and dreams. Now the room echoed with nothing but silence. That evening, I covered the tiffin with cloth and set it aside. I told myself, if he cannot eat it, I will keep it safe. Perhaps one day he will remember. Perhaps one day he will ask for it again. But deep inside, I knew this food was not meant for his stomach anymore. It was meant as a reminder of what he had left behind in the pursuit of image. I thought food would always be the bridge between us. Instead, it became the wall that divided us. The next morning, I rose before dawn. I told myself, maybe I misunderstood him, maybe he was only stressed. A son cannot truly mean that his mother is shame. Hope is stubborn like that tit clings, even when it has been wounded. I decided I would go near his office, not inside, just stand at the corner, watch from afar. At least I would see where my prayers had carried him, at least I would know that my sacrifices had found a home. I carried the tiffin with me once again, wrapped in cloth. The road was long, but my feet knew the way. With each step, I whispered, I will not enter, I will not disturb, I only want to see. When I reached the busy street, I stood by a tea stall across from his building. The glass windows gleamed, the polished sign bore his company's name. People hurried in and out, holding files, carrying laptops, their faces proud, their clothes shining. And then, I heard them. 2 young men stood near the stall, sipping tea and laughing. Did you see yesterday? Someone's mother came to the office in a faded sari. Everyone was staring. She looked so out of place. The poor guy was red with shame. The other chuckled. These people don't understand. Offices are not for showing off village parents. It ruins your image. Keep them at home, safe and hidden. Hidden. That word again. Their laughter rang in my ears. Louder than the traffic, louder than the hawkers' calls. I lowered my eyes, clutching the tiffin tighter. Their words were not about me, but they could have been. They were the world's reflection of my son's thoughts. I whispered to myself. So this is what he fears, that I will walk through those doors and they will laugh. That my sari will erase his suit. That my slippers will stain his polished shoes. But my heart screamed another truth. If they laugh at me, they laugh at the foundation he stands upon. If you believe no mother should ever be hidden for the sake of image, please like this video. Let's remind the world that roots are nothing to be ashamed of. I turned my face away, the steam from the tea stall blurring my vision. My hands shook as I placed the tiffin on the bench beside me. I had thought he would eat it proudly, boast to his colleagues. This is my mother's cooking, the taste that made me who I am. Instead, he feared it. He feared me. I sat there until the sun rose higher, until the crowd grew thicker, and then I rose, carrying the tiffin back home. My shoulders bent, not from the weight of the food, but from the weight of being unwanted. When I reached my house, I placed the tiffin on the table. I did not open it. I did not eat from it. The food lay there, untouched, its aroma filling the room like a ghost of love unreceived. I whispered to the empty air, if my sari embarrasses you, if my slippers shame you, then remember, Beta, without these, you would not stand where you are. I thought success would be his shield to protect me from the world. Instead, success became the sword that cut me away. I sat in my chair long after the call ended, but his words would not leave me. They clung to my ears, repeating again and again, you'll ruin my image. I closed my eyes, and I could still hear his tone, hurried, sharp, impatient, like a man brushing dirt from his sleeve. And then, beneath the echo, came his excuses, words he had said before the line cut. Ma, my colleagues won't understand. They're educated, polished. They don't know about saris, worn thin with years. They don't know about simple slippers. They'll laugh. They'll think I came from nothing. From nothing. I pressed my hand against my chest, feeling my heart clench. From nothing. I was not nothing. I was the soil that grew his tree, the sweat that watered his roots, the hands that fed his body, the prayers that built his future. And now, he feared that showing me would make him look small. I looked down at myself, at the pale sari I had worn, at my cracked slippers resting by the door. To him, these were signs of shame. To me, they were signs of sacrifice. This sari had wrapped him when he was sick. These slippers had carried me through storms to fetch medicine for him. Every stain was love. Every tear was a memory. And yet, he wanted me hidden. Later that day, I overheard my neighbor's son speaking to his friends. He was laughing, saying, imagine if someone's mother came to the office in village clothes. Everyone would whisper, look at him, he's still backward. The boys laughed together, careless in their youth. But their words stabbed me, because they were the same thoughts my son carried. Backward, shameful, out of place. And in that moment, I realized the world had taught him to see me not as his strength, but as his weakness. If you believe no mother's sari or slippers should ever be a source of shame, please subscribe and share. Let's return dignity to simplicity. I remembered when he was a boy, he used to tug at my sari. Ma, you smell like home, he once said, pressing his face against the fabric. He used to run barefoot in those same slippers, following me to the market, laughing when I pretended to scold him. How did those same things, once symbols of love, become symbols of embarrassment? That evening, I placed the tiffin on the table. The food was still warm, the butter still soft, the parathas waiting. I imagined carrying it to him, opening it in his office, and watching his eyes shine like they used to. But instead, I sat alone, the steam rising into emptiness. I whispered into the silence. If I ruin your image, Beta, then what does your image stand upon? A mother's sacrifice is the first stone of every son's success. I thought his office would be my pride, my proof that struggle bore fruit. Instead, it became the place where he buried me in shame. After the call ended, I sat down slowly, the tiffin still warm in my lap. His words echoed inside me, louder than the ticking clock. You'll ruin my image. I looked at the food I had made, steam rising gently from the cloth wrapping. That food was not just food, it was my love, my history, my story. Every grain of wheat had been ground with hands that worked through pain. Every spice came from markets where I had bargained with trembling coins. And yet, none of that mattered now. To him, I was not love. I was shame. My eyes drifted backward, pulled into the past. I remembered the years when he was a boy, running barefoot through the mud. He would fall, scrape his knees, and cry, "Ma." I would rush, clean his wounds with my dupatta, and whisper, "Don't cry, Beta. One day you will walk into an office, not through dirt. You will stand tall." I remembered the days of hunger. The nights I drank only water so he could have milk for school. I remembered sitting by a dim lamp, stitching clothes for others, my back aching, my eyes burning. But my heart whispering, this is for him. One day, he will rise. When exam days came, he would tremble with fear. I sat beside him, holding his hand. "Ma, what if I fail?" He whispered. "You cannot fail," I said. "Not because the world expects you to win, but because my prayers will carry you." And he passed. Each year he passed. Each year, my heart swelled like a balloon. I remembered selling my jewelry, the last piece left from my wedding. Gold bangles, thin but precious, given to me by my mother. I sold them for his college fees. The man in the shop weighed them carelessly, tossing them into a box. To him, they were metal. To me, they were memory. I walked home, empty-wristed but hopeful. "This is not a loss," I whispered to myself. "This is an investment. My son will shine." And shine, he did. He graduated, got his job, and built the life I had dreamed for him. If you believe no mother's jewelry, hunger, or sleepless nights should ever be forgotten, please like this video. Let's honor every sacrifice that built our lives. I remembered his first day at work. He wore a crisp shirt, new shoes, and a proud smile. He touched my feet before leaving, whispering, "Ma, today I begin. Because of you." My chest swelled with joy. I thought, finally, the world will see my son, and through him they will see me. But now, years later, he told me not to come, not to be seen, not to exist in his world of success. I lifted the tiffin again, my hands trembling. This food was meant to be a celebration, a reunion between his roots and his present. Instead, it sat heavy, a reminder that love had been replaced by image. I thought success would be my gift, my reward for sacrifice. Instead, it became the wall that separated me from him. I woke early that morning, heart light with joy. My son had finally built his career, his own office, his name on a shining board. The boy I once carried barefoot through dusty lanes was now a man others respected. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I cooked his favorite foodaloo parathas with extra butter, packed neatly in a tiffin. I wrapped it in cloth, smiling at the thought of surprising him. "He will open it and remember," I whispered, "the taste of home, the taste of love." I draped my best sari, combed my hair neatly, and set out, each step filled with pride. My son, my achievement, my proof to the world that sacrifices had not been in vain. But just before I left, the phone rang. His voice was sharp, hurried. "Ma, are you coming to my office?" "Yes, Beta," I said with joy. "I've made your favorite. I want to see where you work, where you shine." Silence. Then, words I will never forget. "Ma, don't come. Please, don't visit my office. You'll ruin my image." The tiffin slipped slightly from my hands. "Ruin your image," I whispered, double quotes, "yes. My colleagues, my boss, they will see your old sari, your village slippers, your simple ways. They won't understand. It will embarrass me. Please, Ma, stay home." Before I could answer, the line went dead. If this moment broke your heart like it broke mine, please subscribe so no mother's sacrifice is ever silenced. I stood frozen, the tiffin growing heavy in my hands. The same hands that once fed him morsel by morsel, wiping crumbs from his lips. The same hands that had bled working so he could study. And now, those hands held food he no longer wanted because it came from me. I thought this day would be the proudest of my life. Instead, it became the day I was told I was a stain on his pride.